Hey, Kage here. As I was trying to figure out what to do for my first YouTube video, I stumbled upon this article about Final Fantasy 16. Title: Here's why some players plan to boycott Final Fantasy 16. Seemed like an interesting topic to me, so here we go. It would seem like the best way to send a message to Square would be to vote with your wallet. Some Final Fantasy players have revealed that they plan to boycott Final Fantasy 16 due to the development team's continuously questionable response to the lack of diversity in the game. Last November, producer Naoki Yoshida addressed the lack of diversity in an interview, and the response did little to assuage the concerns of black and minority ethnic players. I mean, it is set in medieval fantasy setting of Europe, and I personally prefer something realistic to the region they are portraying, so it's not surprising that there isn't a black man as a main protagonist, for example. At least they don't do something like Queen Cleopatra being black on a Netflix TV show. And in direct response to this, some players are now planning to boycott Final Fantasy 16 due to the lack of diversity and minority characters. So despite notable criticism and backlash online regarding the lack of diversity in the game and Square's continuously questionable response to the topic, it seems a lot of people are still planning to purchase Final Fantasy 16. Began on one poster adding a poll to collate commenters' views. This feels a little odd to me, because it would seem like the best way to send a message to Square would be to vote with your wallet per se, and not to purchase the game given these concerns. Therefore, I was specifically wondering if anyone was going to take a stand and not purchase or boycott Final Fantasy 16 due to these issues. I personally don't see that as an issue, but if you look at the history of Final Fantasy games, the main characters specifically have always been white origin or Asian. Usually it's like a white guy with blonde hair. I haven't played all of the Final Fantasy games, but from what I know, it's usually a white guy being the protagonist. It's not particularly difficult either, given just how many games there are to play. It won't move the needle, but it'll make me feel better about my purchases, said one commenter. With another added, I'm not buying it, to be completely honest, knowing the Starfield and Dragon Dogmas are coming with black characters, and black character creation make it really easy to skip Final Fantasy 16. Forspoken is mediocre, but Frey being a good character helps a bit. I'm good. Forspoken, in my opinion, was a disaster the way the characters were written there, especially the main character with all those remarks she makes throughout the game. Completely unnecessary. As for Dragon's Dogma, was a good game. Kinda excited for the second one, but again, main character skin color doesn't define a game. It's not that you're gonna start playing a game because there's a main character that's black or white or Asian. You play because of the story. You play because of the gameplay of the game, how fun it is. What does it matter what type of a main character it is? If you like the story and how well it is written, then what's the purpose of him being black-skinned or white, for example? Okay, let's continue. However, at the time of writing, over 1,200 players have responded to the poll, but just 2.9%, that's around 40 people, are intending to intentionally boycott the release, with 72.8% still committed to buying it despite the issues. 24.3% of those polled didn't plan on picking up Final Fantasy 16 at all. No, if I boycotted games due to lack of diversity in terms of characters that look like me, I wouldn't have shit to play outside of a few indies at the best, to put it very bluntly, explained one fan. Rep for black women in gaming is abysmal across the board, and I wouldn't say it's even worse for South Asian women, South American women, etc., etc. Since the very first time I started playing games, before the age of 5, I played the games based on if they are fun or not. 30 some years later, this has not changed other than other. Coming from a black person, if you want to boycott, go for it. I'm there day one. It's a fair point. You play a game because you find the game fun and not because there's a guy who looks like, I don't know, like a Tom Holland, for example, from Spider-Man, you know. It's not gonna make the game fun because somebody looks like something. Sure, it helps having custom characters kind of feel more within the game, but that's not necessary at all. And just because somebody is gonna be white or black is not the defining factor of the game's fun. While I was also searching for this article here, I received news that some people are planning to boycott 16 based on the English voice acting, with the lip sync being English instead of Japanese. And this is a small snippet of it. Like this dude says over here, Square Enix really has fallen far, now telling their own home fan base to put up with lazy American voice acting. Even slightly out of sync, the Japanese subs were more tolerable to me than the awful English dub in the Final Fantasy 16 demo. So that's how I'll go with full game. In my opinion, the English voice acting wasn't even that bad. Everybody has a preference whether it's Japanese or English or any other country's dub. But to honestly think that boycott a game just because the lip sync is in English is kinda ridiculous to me. But in all honesty, it also comes back to what I said at the start of the video, that it is more realistic. You are set in a medieval fantasy of Europe, and no country speaks Japanese in Europe. Well, there are people that do, but just as a main language. So lip sync is more accurate that way than it is if it was Japanese, but again, that comes down to preference. But I just find it ridiculous, in all honesty. This of course doesn't say anything about boycotting it, but there was some news about it. I just took this tweet as a example for it. Well, that's it for the first video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm god awful at this, I know, but I wanted to do something with my free time, so I decided I could try some videos. If you liked it, you liked it. If not, then nah. I'll see you at next video, if you still stick around. See you guys.